Alright, this is block 7 from topic 2, ratios and rates. Coming from your page 59 in your workbook, we're going to work through these problems. So first problem we come to, first thing, before we even start, I want a sticky note. So one sticky note. And again, we're going to title this constant or proportionality. Some of it's kind of repeated like last lesson. To find COP, well obviously COP stands for constant or proportionality. I was just being lazy. To find it, it's y divided by x, and that gives me k. K stands for constant of proportionality, because it's a whole lot nicer to write just a K than the whole phrase constant of proportionality. So the fancy K stands for that big long phrase. Then an equation is always written y equals kx. But sometimes they tell us to use different letters for y and x. You'll see that in one of our example problems. So we're starting off with a sticky note so that we can use it to help us solve some of these problems.
My question is, why does y have to come first? Like, if it's on the fraction bar, shouldn't it be k equals yx?
Yes, it can be written. This means the same thing. Because the last time I checked, those equal each other, right? 0.5 also equals 1/2, right? Did order matter on these? Doesn't that matter with the equal sign either. So, I like seeing it this way as well, the way you wanted to see it, but they just typed it that way. So y over x is used to find constant of proportionality, and y equals kx is the equation we use. So we're using part of that information to solve these problems. So number 1 says, Mallory works at a local coffee shop. Last week she worked 22 hours and 30 minutes and earned $258.75. What does Mallory earn per hour? That's our key word there. I'm looking for earn per hour. Well, how much money did she earn?
$258.75.
$258.75. And how many hours did she have to work to earn that?
22.
22 hours, but she didn't work just 22 hours. 22 hours and 30 minutes out of how many minutes? 60. Well, I could look at that as a decimal. What is? That would be 22.5 hours, because 30 is half of 60. So she worked 22 and a half hours. Well, the same example I always come back to. If I had went 100 miles in 2 hours, how far did I go in 1 hour? How did you get the 50? What did you do?
Divided 100 by 2.
Divided 100 by 2. Okay? So, you divided here. Same thing's gonna happen here. I need to divide. So I'm gonna get a handy calculator and do 258.75 divided by
2.5.
and I get
11
how much money is this?
$11.56.
$11.50 per 1 hour now. So to write this as a final answer, $11.50
Per hour.
per hour for number 1. So she worked per hour, she earned $11.50.
Good question. So does it like for when we're working the problem, does it matter if we put the dollar sign?
Not in the problem.
After you're done.
Your final answer needs to have it. Okay, I'm calling this answer my unit rate. Why am I calling it my unit rate? Because it's per
hour.
Then it's a unit.
Because
One. It's per 1. 1's the magic number. That means it's also my K number, which stands for constant of proportionality. I like writing K instead of that big old word, right?
Yeah.
So it's also my K number. I'm keeping that in mind for the next question. So, number 2, they say, first, we're going to write an equation that relates the hours Mallory works, X, and the amount she earns, Y. So we first have to write an equation. And we wrote something on our sticky note about equations. And it said, what did that star say?
Why? Oh, stop. Sometimes they tell us to
Sometimes they tell us
use different letters for Y and X.
Sometimes they tell us to use different letters for Y and X. Did they tell me to use different letters here? Am I using something different than X and Y?
No.
So what is the equation form that we use?
X.
Y equals
Y over X.
K X. And that's K times X when they sit next to each
Can
other.
we do the other way around too? And with the fraction?
No.
X on K.
You won't see it like that. So K times X. Well, I need to know what that K value is. Problem 1, we found the K. What was my K?
11 per hour.
1150. So I can write my equation. There's my equation. I knew what K was. Now if I knew how many hours I worked, I can plug it in for X and calculate it. Do it again. Because y'all been doing it both. How did I know X was representing hours? Because it says hours she works is X. Amount she earns is Y. So Y is representing hours or money? Money. X is representing hours. So that's my equation. I've only done the first sentence. Now I can do the second sentence now that I have an equation. So if Mallory works 20 hours and 45 minutes this week, how much will she earn? Well, 20 hours and 45 minutes. 20 hours, 45 minutes out of how many total minutes? 60 is really 20 point something. How can I find the point?
60 divided by 45.
Try again.
45.
Top divided by bottom. 0.75. So she works 20.75 hours. So if this is hours, what letter represents hours? X or Y?
No, X.
X. So that's where I'm plugging in my number. So I'm going to write Y equals 11.50 times, what's representing X? 20.75. I can multiply those two. When I multiply those two, I get Y equals $238. How much cents?
63.
I got 625.
I'm thinking
How,
63.
how many decimals is in cents?
Two.
Two.
I was
Two.
thinking 600.
663.
63 cents because you have to round.
That 5 rounds the 2 up because I only need 1 decimal, so that is 63 cents. So how much would she earn if she worked 20.75 hours?
238.
$238.63.
$238.63. Okay. Number 3. Says you found a unit rate that compares dollars earned per hours worked at the coffee shop. They want us to find another unit rate. Well, forget this question for a minute. Again, I always go back to something easy, like miles per hour. I could look at it as miles per hour. That's a unit rate. Or I could look hours per mile. That's another unit rate. It sounds funny, but it's still a unit rate. Because does most people go around and say, I went hours per mile? No, because it's kind of weird.
Well, nobody goes around saying how many miles per hour.
Yeah, true. I ran 20 miles per hour today.
What?
That would be super fast. Well, not really.
Did you
Oh,
make
that'd
the
be
track
awful.
Okay, so all I did here was flip-flop them, right? That was this problem. Well, we already looked at one that said earn per hour. Back in question 1, right? Earth to people.
Yes.
Yes.
I hope so.
Earn per hour. We found that back in question 1. Earn per hour, and we found how much did they earn in 1 hour? 11.50. In how many hours?
1.
1 hour. So that we already found that. The paragraph here, the question says, find another one. This is one we already found.
Just double it.
I just explained how to do it up here. So the second one, just like I did on miles per hour and hours per mile, how could I write my second one?
Hour over earn.
Hour over earn.
Every single
Hour per
earned.
earned. Well, so that means what has to happen to my numbers?
Flip.
They're flipped too. So it's 1 hour per 11.50. Well, what's 11.50 divided by 1? 11.50. But is 1 divided by 11.50 11.50? No, it gives me something else. I need to know what that something else is. So 1 divided by 11.50.
0.0869.
Let's do 2 decimal places. So 0.09. The 8 gets rounded up to a 9.
This Adams.
So there are 2 unit rates. One we had already found. The second one we got by flip-flopping. All right, we have one more problem for how many hours would Mallory have to work in a day to make $46? Says to use an equation to answer this question. All right, so she makes $46. We want to know how many hours. I need to make an equation. Whenever they ask us to write an equation, we have to figure out some letters. I'm going to, so we're talking about hours. And when I'm making money, when I work per hour, what do they give me in return? Money. So I know money's going to be involved, so I'm going to use an M, and I'm going to let that stand for money. It's going to be real fancy. Then I know when I'm working hours, I'm talking about hours, so I'm going to use an H for hours. Well, I previously found out how much she makes per hour. How much money does she make per hour?
$11.50.
$11.50. I know there's going to be an equal sign. What am I going to do to that $11.50 when I know how many hours I'm going to work? What operation?
You're going to divide it.
If I know how many hours I'm going to work, I'm going to divide this and get less money.
Oh no, multiply it.
You're going to multiply it. What am I going to multiply it by? Am I going to multiply it by money or by hours I work?
Hours.
So I'm multiplying it times some hours. When I multiply these two things, it produces my grand total. In grand total, is it grand total hours or grand total money?
Grand total money.
So it's equaling money. So there's my equation. I can use M equals 1150 times hours. Huh? Gonna get back there. Just a sec. So $46. Is that money or is that hours?
Money.
So where am I plugging 46 into?
Money.
M or H?
M.
So it's 46 equals 1150 times H. How did I solve this back in 6th grade? Why? Yeah. How did I solve when I had a variable sitting over here and I needed to get it by itself?
You isolated it.
You isolated your variable by what?
Itself.
I had to do opposite operation. What operation's going on right here?
Division.
Multiplication. Opposite of multiplication?
Division.
I'm going to divide both sides by 1150. So 46 divided by 1150. That canceled out. I got H equals 4. So 4 what?
4 hours.
So my answer is 4 hours she worked to earn 46 hours. Hold on.
46 hours.
What did I say hours? $46. She worked 4 hours and earned $46. Some people see it a little differently. They see, this is you,
Me?
yep, they see that I'm looking for hours, right? And I need something to multiply M by to figure out what that hours is.
You just divide.
So I would use this guy because it's looking for hours. This would be my guy here, and I could plug in 46 for M here and get about how many hours. And it would work about the same. But remember, we rounded this, right? And when we rounded this, it affected another answer. What?
I have a question. So, like, you put the 11.50 cents underneath
Because I've divided it.
So would that be divided by, so that equal 1, right?
Yep, that's why it canceled out.
And so would you, I have 2 questions for this. So would you always put it underneath its own number? So if I had like 12 hours times 8,
Because you do it to both sides.
and so like, I'm still understanding how you put the $11.50 underneath the 40 cents.
Because you do it to both sides of the equal sign. Okay, number 5 is going to be worked another day, so don't worry about problem number 5. You have work time now to work on any online assignments if you have it. And thanks for listening.